Today, September the 16th, is Yom Kippur, or the Feast of Atonement, or AT-ONE-MENT. You can find it in Leviticus chapter 23. There you'll also find the rest of God's festivals as he gave to Israel. You will notice at the beginning of that chapter, he says that these are the feasts of the Lord, not the feast of Judaism, not the feast of Israel just, the feast of the Lord. And it might shock you, but there are millions around this earth right now keeping the Feast of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, and that excludes the Jews. The Jews, some of them keep it, but I'm talking about, to your surprise, that there are other millions of Christians around this earth who are observing this day, the Feast of Atonement. Fasting is on this day. We fast from food, we fast from liquids on Yom Kippur, or the Feast of Atonement. Those are God's festivals in Leviticus chapter 23. Now, if you go on to my blog, and let me repeat my blog again, is all one word, the meltdown continues .blogspot.ca. And on my blog, you are going to find many studies there concerning Yom Kippur, concerning the Feast of Atonement. You will find many of them there that I've just uploaded in the last couple of weeks. You can also go on and find my old website that I had for 22 years. And you can find it today by going on a Wayback Machine, or Wayback, not away, but Wayback Machine. Let me repeat it, Wayback Machine. Choose 2017, and then choose one of the months. There's a little dot on some of the days in those months. You can just touch on those dots and then touch on the third little thing that comes down in the little window. And that will take you to my website as it was in 2017, and whichever month you're going to touch on. So that's my website, my old website. Hundreds of theological studies on my old website. Many dozens upon dozens now are on my blog. Some interesting little facts about the Feast of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. Observed in Israel, I got this, by the way, from Wikipedia. Yom Kippur is a legal holiday in the modern state of Israel. There are no radio or television broadcasts. Airports are shut down. There is no public transportation. And all shops and businesses are closed. In 2013, so it's back a few years, 2013, 73% of the Jewish people said they were intending to fast on Yom Kippur. That's 2013. It may not be the case anymore today. I'm not sure how many today in the state of Israel will be keeping Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, as it should be kept according to the commandments of God. I'm not sure how that is going today. The article goes on to say, it is considered impolite to eat in public on Yom Kippur, or to sound music, or to drive a motor vehicle. There are no legal prohibitions on any of these, but in practice, such actions are almost universally avoided on Yom Kippur, except for emergency services. Over the last few decades, bicycle riding and inline skating on the empty streets have become commonplace amongst Israeli youth, especially on the eve of Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv. In 1973, an air raid siren was sounded on the afternoon of Yom Kippur, and radio broadcasts were resumed to alert the public to the surprise attack on Israel by Egypt and Syria that launched the Yom Kippur War. Now, this you're going to find interesting. Observance by athletes. Some notable athletes have observed Yom Kippur, even when in conflict with playing their sport. In baseball, Sandy Koufax, the Hall of Fame pitcher, decided not to pitch Game 1 of the 1965 World Series because it fell on Yom Kippur. Koufax garnered national attention for his decision as an example of the conflict between social pressures and personal beliefs. Hall of Fame first baseman Hank Greenberg attracted national attention in 1934, nearly 3 decades earlier, when he refused to play baseball on Yom Kippur, even though the Tigers were in the middle of a pennant race and he was the leading league in runs batted in. The Free Press columnist and poet Edgar A. Guest wrote a poem and entitled Speaking of Greenberg, which ended with the lines, "We shall miss him on the infield and shall miss him at the bat, but he's true to his religion and I honor him for that." When Greenberg arrived in the synagogue on Yom Kippur, the service stopped suddenly, and the congregation gave an embarrassed Greenberg a standing ovation. Los Angeles Dodgers outfielder Shawn Green similarly made headlines in 2001 for sitting out a game for the first time in 415 games, the longest streak among active players at the time. He sat out on Yom Kippur, even though his team was in the middle of a playoff race. Other baseball players who have similarly sat out games on Yom Kippur include former Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees third baseman Kevin Urquilis, former Houston Astros catcher and former Los Angeles Angels manager Brad Osmus, and outfielder Art Shamsky. Gabe Karimi, the consensus All-American left tackle in the American football, who won the 2010 Outland Trophy as the nation's top collegiate interior lineman, faced a conflict in his freshman year of the college in 2007. That year, Yom Kippur fell on a Saturday, and he fasted until an hour before his football game against Iowa started that night. Karimi said, "Religion is a part of me. I don't want to just say I'm Jewish. I actually do make sacrifices that I know are hard choices." In 2004, Matt Bernstein, standout fullback at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, fasted on Yom Kippur, then broke his fast on the sidelines before rushing for 123 yards in a game against Penn State. In 2011, golfer Lee Titia, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, my girl. So the golfer Lee Titia Beck declined a request to join the University of North Carolina the Tar Heels invitation competition because it conflicted with Yom Kippur. Instead, she spent the day fasting and praying. She said, "My Judaism is very important to me, and on Yom Kippur, no matter what, I have to fast." Boris Gelfland, Boris Gelfland, Israel's top chess player, played his game in the prestigious London Grand Prix chess tournament on the 25th of September in 2012, eve of Yom Kippur. He played it earlier to avoid playing on the holy day. In 2013, the International Tennis Federation fined the Israeli Tennis Association more than $13,000 for the inconvenience of having to schedule a tennis match between Israel and Belgian teams that was originally scheduled on Yom Kippur. Dudi Salah, Israel's #1 player, quit his quarterfinal match in the third set of the 2017 Shenzhen Open, so he could begin observing Yom Kippur by the time the sun set, forfeiting a possible $34,000 in prize money and 90 ranking points. Professional wrestler Bill Goldberg has notably refused to wrestle on a match on Yom Kippur. Well, those were men and ladies that stood up for the faith of God as far as the festival of Yom Kippur, the festival of the Feast of Atonement, goes. But you know, God has more than just one festival. He has many festivals, and they're all given to you, as I mentioned, in Leviticus 23. And, again, to your surprise maybe, there are millions of Christians around the world who now keep the festivals of the eternal God that are given in Leviticus 23. Yes, not in Old Testament typology observed, but with the new understanding of the New Covenant, the New Testament. But those days are still observed by millions. They are the festivals of the Lord. Where, my friends, do you stand? Do you stand with the traditions of men, with festivals that have been invented by men? Or are you willing to stand and observe the festivals of God?